I found online recently, in which a young man was being told that he was a failure and wouldn't graduate and amount to much in life because he wasn't passing the test in the class that he was in. And I'd like you to take a listen to this as we get ready to go into our conversation with my guest, Cecilia De Annan. And at this point, say, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Isha.
Right.
With all due respect, don't call me a failure. Failure is an event, not a person, in fact. And you talk about the future, Mr. Johnson, but you're not preparing us for that.
Excuse me?
Just listen to what I'm saying.
This should be good.
Would you agree that in the future, most careers will become automated?
Yeah, so?
So the people who succeed will have to be curious, innovative, with resilience to adapt to new changes.
What's your point?
My point is, the focus in this school is not on that. It is on regurgitating information and test taking, and that's just real. But in today's world, creativity is the most important leadership skill.
Oh, that's how you feel.
You don't have to believe me, but maybe you will believe the 1,500 executives who recently said creativity is the most important leadership skill. See, pretty soon, no one will be hired because of what they know. Because who cares what you know or if you've memorized a fact? We've got Google and Siri for that. In the future, people will be hired because of what they can do with their knowledge. Can they creatively solve real-world problems, not just follow instructions or directions and bubble in multiple-choice questions? So, Mom, that's why I'm stressed, because these robotic tasks we learn in school should stop. Because no one can do a robot's job better than a robot. Billionaire founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, said that we should not compete with artificial intelligence, but instead focus on developing unique human intelligence. Mr. Johnson, drills are for teeth, not the human mind. So these repetitive knowledge-based tasks we must leave behind. Or in the future, you're gonna find a lot of people graduating out of your class right into the unemployment line.
Okay. So this is the Executive Lounge, Joy 99.7 FM, and it's 17 minutes past 1, and my guest is seated, and we're ready to go. So if you just tuned in, as always, you can tweet at me, at GH Rainmaker, hashtag Executive Lounge, and you can also send your text messages via WhatsApp or Telegram, 0244340437. If you have thoughts you want to share, please do so as we have this all-important conversation. And in the last few weeks, if you'd listened to the show, you'd hear, my reference to the demographic dividend. And yes, it's coming. Our population on this continent is going to swell, whether we like it or not. That's the projection. The other thing that we can't stop is the disruption of technology and the evolution that is already upon us. The fact that some jobs that we do today will be extinct. I think I like the word extinct, It will be gone like that. But we'll have human beings who need to be gainfully employed, to have a certain livelihood, and make meaning of their lives. With that in mind, what do you make of the position of the young man who was explaining to his teacher and his mother? And if you've seen the video, it's the parent, a son, and a teacher, saying that, look, what I really need for the future, you're not giving me. But we all say it's important for everyone to go to school and get an education. So if we know a future is coming, why are we teaching the way we're teaching? Should we scrap education the way we know it?
I'm not sure that we should scrap education the way we know it, but we can add more value to the education systems that we have. When you look at the future, well, imagine the future. Do you know what jobs we will have? You can predict some.
Some you can predict.
Like robotic technicians.
Yes.
Or space travel guides rather than tour guides for the Earth. Those kind of things you can imagine, but you really can't even fathom all the types of jobs that will be created as we move along and evolve. So some things hold true. Some things don't change, and an education system that looks at these survival skills will do well with their children. So let's look at the survival skills from caveman till today. Okay? Confidence is one of them.
Okay.
The ability to create new things. The ability to think through problems and not be deterred by challenges. The ability to think outside the box. That's critical thinking. Analyzing your environment. What do I need to survive? What helps me do better? And of course, communication. 20 years ago, communication was not a career as such. I mean, we knew PR might be important, but nobody thought about communication becoming a key skill for every organization, for every leader. But for survival, you should be able to communicate your thoughts. You can be super brilliant, but if you're not able to deal with people and express empathy or connect with other people through your ability to communicate, whether it's silent or not. So there are 5 skills that are critical for survival, for leaders, for people who do well. So critical thinking, creativity, confidence, collaboration. Oh boy. Because in communication, you're seeking collaboration. Human beings don't exist by themselves. We need to connect to be able to do better with other people supporting us. So rather than competition, let's look at collaboration, where teams come together and creativity just explodes because of multiple, skills that we all bring to the team. So I'm not sure that what we think of education just has to be redefined. And yes, preschoolers are very important because that's the foundation. We never really thought that was important. You go to school at 5, 6. In Ghana, we started going to school at 2.
Yeah.
And the children that go to school at 2 tend to do better than those who come in at 5. Having said that, if the child is at home and is being homeschooled, mother and father just teach and communicate with the child and do things with the child. That child is going to walk in at 5 and you would probably think he had been educated from age 2. So education starts from the cradle. I would say from 3 months. The moment a child's eyes are open and can look around, it tries to communicate before their eyes are clear. But the moment they can see mom move across the room and follow mom with their eyes, they're ready to learn. And parents need to know this, that they are the first foundation builders for children who will survive the future, whatever the future throws at them.
Interesting stuff. So the 5, incidentally, I was, in preparing for this, I had come across the 4 C's somehow. So the 4 C's include 4 of your 5.
Okay.
So you did
Which
one.
Was
better.
the odd one?
The odd one was confidence.
Okay.
Yes. And in your explanation, I'm realizing that in my understanding of the importance of the 4 C's and your faith, I think that makes a great deal of difference.
Yes.
Because without it kind of anchors everything else.
Exactly. If a child that can, we see little girls and boys who are very articulate at 3, 4, and we think that he's been here before, she's been here before. That child has a certain confidence. Okay, but what happens when they're 6, 7? We start shutting them down.
Yeah,
they're no longer cute. They're preteen and they're awkward. And so we start shutting them down. And then we do something even worse when the child hits their teens. They become awkward because now they are questioning you. They're pushing their boundaries. They are disruptors of society, but they are meant to be. Societies that allows their teenagers to explore and share what's going on in their mind are the societies that evolve. Albert Einstein left school at 15. That is when the creative energy is at its most highest. And yet, we have no time for them. We wait till they're graduates, then we can say, look at what I've done. Okay? But the teenagers should be given the environment that they can also now bring themselves to their society. But we're weary of that because they kind of disrupt things. They want things to change. They think they can do better than we did. And we're just focused on just be good and survive the teen years. Don't get pregnant. Don't get somebody's daughter pregnant. Control the urges. But it's scientifically proven that the sexual urge in teenagers, if not played out in sexual activity, actually supports them to become the most creative, amazing human beings.
So it's harnessing the energy in there and
it's the
giving
only
it a
energy
direction.
that can be transformed into something else.
Wow.
But do we teach preteens that this is going to happen to you, and when it happens, you can use this energy to develop who you're meant to be? Your purpose is within that time frame.
I don't think anyone gets taught that. Well, maybe some people do. I certainly didn't get that.
No, they're taught about the birds and bees at a scientific level.
Yeah, but not in the context that allows you to recognize that the energy you have can be harnessed to do something else.
Do something
if you're
else.
unfortunate to, and I count myself fortunate to have found myself playing team sport at that level.
Exactly.
I found an avenue to express
Exactly.
all of that.
And I'm sure you were very good then at
yes.
what you were doing.
Yes.
Yes.
And so there are people who have to live through this life with no blueprint to follow.
True.
And we expect so many great things of them.
Yes.
Are we setting up the future as one that would be almost impossible for young people to thrive and be global leaders and champions?
We're not. There's so much information now that there's no excuse to say I didn't know. Okay? We're sharing information today. What I just shared with you, one of my mentees shared it with me.
Wow.
Yes. I'm mentoring this young man. He is 23. He's in Ashesi. He's celibate. And he gets teased a lot. And I ask him, so how do you manage to stay so focused and grounded? He says, because from my teens, somebody told me that this is how I will develop my purpose and who I am before I start engaging. And that this energy I have, that my friends have, I have chosen to use it this way.
Wow.
So then I read more with him and found out that energy is the only energy that can be transformed for good.
In that
So
story.
a mentee, I, the mentor, was willing to learn from a mentee. Okay? I believe that we learn, relearn, unlearn, relearn, learn, unlearn, relearn. Alvin Toffler said it. The society he was in did not use it well, but some of us have picked it up and we live it. Okay? The illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who can't read or write.
Yeah. But it's
But
those
who
who
cannot
learn, relearn,
learn, unlearn,
unlearn,
and
yeah.
relearn.
And it's quite interesting. And to think that Alvin Toffler, and for the benefit of our listeners, was an American philosopher who probably we could say today that was thinking ahead of his time. Yeah. Because his philosophy on learning, relearning, and unlearning was not embraced.
No.
But inherent in those three things that he says, I think I find all five things you said. We all have to learn that we can't do it all. That
Yes.
leads to collaboration.
Yes.
Learning or unlearning certain things or relearning certain things leads to creativity. You find your communication in there. Of course, you need to learn how to articulate some things.
Yeah.
And you have to unlearn how not to do it
Yes.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, he was talking about what we ought to be doing way into the future.
Yes.
And it's clear that the societies that have embraced this have created an enabling environment for creativity, for some of the big organizations, global businesses,
Yes.
have emerged because of this.
Global products like
Yes.
Viagra,
Mm-hmm.
which was meant to be for high blood pressure.
Yes, yes, yes.
We
yes.
went wrong, and if he had, oh yes, if that scientist was afraid,
Mm.
if he wasn't confident, if he had a leader who was willing to collaborate, that leader would have said, go back in there and start again. But he was able to take it
And
to
say,
the
"We
to
can
the
take it to the
investors
next
and
level."
say, listen, we have another product. Yes, we know that BP is becoming the thing, but this could also do something for us. I mean,
And it created
bingo.
a revolution.
It created a revolution. So, why is it that we're still marking kids, measuring them according to exam results?
Mm-hmm.
Some children don't do well under pressure. I know a father who has taken his 3 boys out of school in Ghana. They went to a very prominent school in Accra. He took them out because the boys they're high energy children. They go to school full of energy, can't focus. That energy needs to be expended, but sports is in the afternoon when the sun is up. And he tried to explain this. My kids are not bad boys. They just got a lot of energy when they wake up in the morning.
Mm.
So can't they do something with, that energy before they... And so he's taking them out to school, and this is their timetable. I mean, bless him, he would be happy that I'm sharing, okay? They do sports in the morning. So when kids are going off to school, they're going
doing
off to do
sport.
tennis, swimming, whatever it is they need to do. Then they come home and have a nap. Then they have a snack. Then they have reading time.
Mm.
Lunchtime comes around, they eat, then they have to write what they've read. Appreciative writing. Then their tutors come in. 2 tutors a day. Just 2 subjects a day. But these boys are genius kids. You hear them play the piano. They sit exams with schools, and they're doing very well. So why is it that every child is presumed to be ready for maths in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
What are schools doing?
Not just math, mental.
Mental. 2, 1, 2.
Yeah, you have
2,
to
4.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to remember. Memorization is good. It strengthens another part of the brain.
Yeah.
But when you say you're doing Montessori, is it holistic? Is it really Montessori? So let's look at how we've done, not to throw away sports, but why is it in the afternoon when the sun is so high? After lunch when the child is just eating? We need to rethink the things we've done
Mm-hmm.
in a classroom where the teacher doesn't allow anyone to talk unless he says, answer this question. We're frustrating children. And today, these kids, they have access to Google.
Mm-hmm.
So they're bored. You are introducing the subject and they know it already, probably, in another context. Okay? And you're there teaching the child. So our education system has to look at how we can support our teachers to unlearn some of the things they learned to get their certificates.
Mm-hmm.
When we have accepted that, we're on to a good thing.
So essentially, a teacher's role is not to teach me the way they learned.
Not necessarily.
Because
Not
from this
necessarily. Maybe for
story-
some
for certain
children,
things, okay.
for some children, maybe memorization is what they need. For others, they need the logic.
Right.
Okay, but the assumption was that every child in the room was the same. Montessori said no, they're not. Okay, and we've all adopted Montessori, but really, is that what's really going on? I have parents who complain about homework. And then there are schools who complain that parents want homework for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. Why? Finland has proved homework is pointless. The child comes to school, you're supposed to support that child in how they think. But you send them home to redo the exercises so that
That they
who
did
is
in class.
impressed? The parent is impressed that the child learned something at school today. Why? So unlearning some of our assumptions and tried but not really tested thoughts is what we need to look at.
Now, I just made a note about data, information.
Right.
Clearly, we've got it right in some places and not so right in some places, which is why we need to rethink some things. Granted. How well the concept of education and the concept of schooling, and I'm borrowing this from the expression school of fish.
Okay.
They all swim in the same direction and they're clustered together. Education and schooling.
Yeah.
Are we truly educating? Because from what you explained, and even from the interaction with your mentee,
Yeah.
you, the mentor, who's
Right.
supposedly offering the education, was open to the transfer of information, of data,
Right.
from the
mentee.
mentee. Is our education system built to allow that two-way collaboration that makes the whole process evolve to the betterment of both sides?
Traditional schools, no. Traditional schools, no. But around the world, some countries are recognizing that in the environment where the teacher and the child learns, great bonds are formed. And then class attendance goes up. Because the teacher is no longer this instructional God who says, I know it all, and doesn't. Because children will prove it when they go home on their phones or their parents' phones. They'll come back and look at you sideways whilst you're talking, because they know that what you said has been refuted last week, but you don't know that. You're a physics teacher and you're still propounding some theory that has been refuted, but you don't know. Is that child going to trust you to teach them? No. But when the child knows that this teacher is open to my thoughts, and within my thoughts, he makes me feel that I'm valued, that I can also contribute to the learning experience, then the bond is created, the child is excited to come to school. So I'm all for enrichment programs, because traditional schools now have to deliver results still. So it's hard not to do the schooling. It's hard not to teach children that in the society you've been born into, at some point you have to follow the school of fish. You can step out, but you better be ready for what's coming. So schooling must happen, but schools must start looking at enrichment programs that allows that interaction between teacher and child.
And that's where the education
where fun
happens.
and learning, and that's when the grounding of what schooling has been doing happens. That's where creativity also emerges. You'll be surprised the things children can come up with when you allow them to creatively express themselves.
There are some children who are different.
Right.
And it took me growing up to feel very guilty about being in the same space with people who may have some special needs that
Yes.
we didn't even recognize.
Yes.
And we thought that as society, we were made to think because they're not in the top of the class or even in the middle, and they're always so-called carrying the class,
Yeah.
there was something wrong with them.
Yes.
And then I later realized that some of the most creative people I've ever come across are people who have what we call spectrum disorder.
Right.
But they're just different from us.
They didn't have support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of these, these are bits of data.
Right.
Okay. We live in this big data world. What should we be doing differently if we want to be able to have a nation where every child has a true opportunity
Right.
that helps them become the best?
Every teacher needs the true opportunity to become the brilliant teacher that they claim they want to be. Right now, people are going into teaching because, you'll get holidays and your holidays will be paid for, and the schools are mushrooming all over the place, and so there are vacancies. So, I love children, I can teach. No. the passion to teach, it's a service. It's a lot of sacrifice. You have to have interest in every child. And in a teacher's lifetime, how many children go through one teacher?
Oh,
Yeah,
lots.
so you better be ready to carry all these children with you. And yet, how do teachers get screened before they join a school? Oh, they've worked at this school before. This is good school. You might call and ask for reference. But do you know the behaviors this teacher is bringing on board? Or you're looking at the certificates they have and the length of service in a school? You know, so for me, I prefer that we look, when we talk about education, we don't stay focused on what children are being taught only, but what are the teachers being taught? These guides, what are they doing? Okay, I was great at school, but I didn't like school.
Wow.
Yes, I did very well at school because it was expected. You know, I come from a family that expected you to do well, and it's just
So for you just
it's just
tick
the
the
norm.
box.
So I just ticked the box, but I didn't really enjoy school. No, and then I was jumped twice. So my peers were older than me. I couldn't identify with what they were going through. I just listened and chalked it down for the future. It's my future learning.
And so,
And so I'm always learning ahead. But I didn't enjoy being a child in school. My school was great.
you skipped bits of being a child.
I skipped this. They made me skip bits of being a child, you know. But to please my mom, to see that joy on her face when my report card comes, I collect another prize, I collect prizes. And so we go on. We should stop doing that to children. Children must be themselves, whether it pleases us or not, whether it fits into the box we need them to be fitted into. Every child has their own thing coming up.
So if every child is different from the other, and even twins can be different,
Yes.
should we have or maintain this thing where there is a classroom, there is, how do you call that thing? So a session, a teacher is teaching a subject and is teaching the entire class. Should children now be isolated, separated, and taught differently, and even tested differently? And when I say tested, testing for whether they appreciate what's being taught, not necessarily to memorize and regurgitate.
Okay. So let me introduce Fast Track Kids to you, Inshira. In a Fast Track Kids class, you could have a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old in the same class.
Wow.
We're going to study gravity, okay? So gravity, why do human beings fly? Do human beings fly? No, but they do fly in a plane. Okay, how did that happen? Two brothers, Wright brothers, they failed many times, but they were persistent, and they collaborated with people who could invest in them, and then finally we have the plane, and then they flew. Let's make a plane with paper. Ooh, why is your plane shaped this way? Go out and fly your plane. Come back. Tell me, did it fly straight or down or up? What I'm describing to you is a 2-hour class, and the children don't know it's 2 hours.
Because they're involved, right?
Yes, because application is happening as we're learning.
Mm.
So the child who prefers art or needs a bit of emotional support, you've spoken about determination, errors are okay, you can come back from it and do better. You've spoken about physics, say Isaac Newton, Apple will be introduced. Every 5 minutes, that subject has been applied to another subject in another form, introduced in another format. Every child in there has had something. You know, in corporate presentations, you're taught to, be aware that some people are early listeners. Then there's the middle ones and the ones who come in at the end just to hear the bite and go. So repeat your message at least 3 times. This is it. When you're teaching, be mindful of the fact that some children like data, some like to apply with their hands, some like to, and make the subject interesting. But is that how the teacher was taught?
No.
So we need to reteach. We need to have our teachers relearn. The same things they
how do
learned, but delivery must be different.
How do we even know where to begin when, I mean, if we have to reteach, what do we prioritize? What should we focus on today if we want to retool our teachers to be able to offer this to children?
Okay, so some subjects allow for creativity anyway.
Okay.
English,
Mm-hmm.
write about yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to be different from
Everyone's
different. But the core subjects like science and maths and the ones with formula and some form of structure, those teachers need to be also supported to learn how to break it down so that a classroom of 5 different types of kids can all identify with the figures, with the formula. There are various ways to teach the same thing. How do they apply it to their life? So let's not stay so focused on the result and what the child has been forced to think. How is the child thinking? That's where how we start understanding how to teach and train our teachers.
Right. So we've got some comments coming through. Number one is from, we have a listener all the way in Leeds in the United Kingdom. It says, "Inshallah, yes, jobs will be taken over by computers and robots, but the output of the robot generation needs to be interpreted
Absolutely.
with basic theory.
Yeah.
If you don't know the theory, results will be results, but not make sense. Education is important."
Yes,
and this is
it is.
Prodio. Okay, so you are accepting what Prodio is saying.
Yes.
I would. I'm gonna get your the context from you because I'm a little lost on what he means by should be expressed in basic theory. And it says, "Can you share some resources?" This is from TT in the U.S. TT says, "Could you share some resources I could use in guiding my kids on how best to expend their teenage urges positively?" Okay. Which one do you want to take first? Let's take TT's, and then I would want your thoughts on. Okay. So Linda says, "When will we get there? So much to learn." Good afternoon, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in and sharing your thoughts with us. If you're also listening or online on Facebook, you can leave us a message on the Facebook stream. Just leave a comment or send us WhatsApp on 0244340437, and same applies for Telegram. We'll take all your thoughts. But Cecilia,
Yeah.
TT says, what do I need to do to help my young teenage sons tame their urges or harness the energy?
So he is it? Can you share some resources he
Yes.
wants? Okay. So off the top of my head, I can't remember what my mentee shared with me, but I will share it with you later, Ishra, so you can
Okay.
send it back to TT.
Okay.
But the sexual urges, the sexual energy is the only energy that can be transformed into something else.
Okay.
So what is the child's passion?
Mm.
Okay, when my daughter was a 5-year-old, she was into cutting and pasting and glitter, and I thought, I have an artist, and I was very excited because I wasn't allowed to be an artist. Okay, so I was very excited, and then by the time she was 10, she was into math, and then I thought, okay, yeah, I'm good at maths, and mommy is a mathematician, but why is she? This is boring. But in her teens, she moved into geography.
Mm.
And by the time she was doing her degree, she was into, what she calls tree hugging. I'm going to save the environment.
Sustainable
sustainable living. Okay. And that was exciting for me as well. Children evolve.
Mm.
So don't think that you know your child every 2-3 years. The child is evolving. Their thoughts are changing. Their passions, what they find interesting, changes. So at any given moment, what is it that the child is really excited about? And that energy can be put into that. It doesn't make sense for you, the parent. Trust that the child needs this for now, and encourage them. We've been through ballet. We went and played football for our school. It shifted and shifted and shifted, but thank God, it took her away from what could have been, which was expending that energy the other way. But if you don't pay attention, and the child has no support in exploring the things that are interesting as well, What else is there to do but to use that energy the way it's coming?
Yeah.
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 So I need to find the resources. I don't want to. I
will
remember
share
some of it,
on the
but I'll
WhatsApp.
share.
Sorry, I'll share it on the Facebook page. But
Okay.
Titi, stand by for more information. But I think the crux of what you said is that, look, you've got to identify, and that means that as a parent, you've got to be constantly observing, collecting data, analyzing it,
Collaborating.
and
Collaborating with your kid.
Okay, collaborating.
Yes.
To understand what they like to do the most,
And
and
what's-
guiding them to express themselves in that manner.
In a safe environment. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, and so now this is the part, the interpretation of basic theory, or with basic theory. What exactly is Prodeo?
Interpreted with basic theory is basically what I said. How are you teaching a 4-year-old, say Isaac Newton's?
Right.
How are you doing it? Because this shouldn't wait till he or she's a teenager before you introduce it, which is what we do. A 4-year-old can get it.
Yeah.
Yes. I observed a 5-year-old Spanish boy demonstrate buoyancy in front of a room of about 100 or so businessmen and women in dark suits. And this boy was on a platform with a table and 3 glasses, water, salt, and egg. And he demonstrated buoyancy, and he spoke to us in broken English. We understood it. He was confident. You know,
He was in charge.
he was in charge. He was a fast-track kid child.
And you all just sat
And
there
he
and
was,
watched-
we just
How old was
looked
this
at him,
child?
and I thought, I can't remember buoyancy. I know what a buoyant thing is. I know what, you go to the sea, you see the red things
Yeah.
popping up.
Yeah,
I
the
know
buoy
it's
is all
the
over,
buoy is
yeah.
all over.
Mm.
But the concept of it, no, I can't remember, because it was shoved down my throat, and I hated it and dismissed it the moment I walked out of school. But this boy had 5.
5 years.
5 years demonstrating buoyancy, explaining everything. Basic theory, interpreted with basic theory, education is important. At some point, you have to put some data in, but be interested in how the child is interpreting that data.
I always recount something I learned from a physics teacher of mine.
Right.
And we all affectionately called him Ivy. This was at St. Mary's Secondary School, and that's a story for another day. Ivy was teaching us mechanics, and I think we're doing motion at the time. To date,
You remember it.
I remember braking distance from even before I understood the principles of driving a car. Because one of the things we had to do was to calculate the braking distance of a moving car or a moving object. When does it come to stop, and all of these things.
Right.
But he didn't just leave it there. He applied it and said, if you can make this calculation well, you would know when you're traveling and approaching an object, you know when to start stopping the vehicle.
And kids sit in the car to school.
Yeah.
They sit in public transport, and they know what braking can do to you.
Exactly.
Do you understand? So it's applicable knowledge. To me, that's educating someone. When you make it relevant, when you make information relevant, and the child can actually, or the student can actually envisage it. But to tell me to learn something by rote, because I might need it one day. I mean, I have a calculator on my phone now.
When you talk about enrichment,
Right.
How will you explain enrichment in the context of Ghana's education system today? How do we embrace enrichment in education?
It's interesting that you should ask that, because in Nigeria, the gentleman who bought Fast Track Kids has been trying to get it into the government schools. He's not interested in private money. He has his own. He's a self-made man, but he was in that room, watching the buoyancy thing going on. So he wants to put it into government schools, and he still hasn't started. He hasn't managed to have one child sit down long enough to teach. What can the government do? There is after school. It's just 2 hours. Putting children into teams to do emotional intelligent activities. bringing some of the concepts they've learned in school and applying it to everyday life. So that when they go back into the classroom and all this data has been shoved at them, they know that it's relevant enough. They can see why they must pay attention. They should take it seriously because they have an opportunity to use it or test it in a safe environment, which is in the school before they leave and go into the big, great world. It's not a big, bad world. It's a big, great world.
Big, great world.
Yes, it is. So, yes, what can the government do? The government has to now accept that those who do very well in school don't always make the great, successful adults.
Yeah, as a certain president says, those of you who are graduating with first class, congratulations. And as he says to all the C students, you can also become a president.
That's right.
So it's not so much, the grades you're graduating with, but it's the knowledge that you've taken on board.
Yes, and the confidence level,
that you have.
self-esteem. Because, I went to a school in Ghana where if you didn't do well in your school tests, mid-terms, you're not going home.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it still exists.
Like
You're not going home is not announced to you alone in Shura. It's on a notice board.
Oh, so everybody knows those who
didn't do well and they're not going home.
Not going home.
And we called it the Atiko train.
So that could kill your confidence.
Okay. Yeah. And there were a few people who were always on the Atiko train. But some of them are multimillionaires now.
Yeah, what was there?
And I'm not.
See that thing?
So these kids had to survive the humiliation, the shame. They learned how to maneuver and interpersonal relationships became their skill. Okay, they had to survive in an environment where kids are laughing at you but they learned some things along the way about failure, about picking up and trying again, about how to, move with people, convince people, how to work on your image even. They learned those skills much earlier on.
So,
survival skills,
all too soon. I hate this part of the day. Like, we have to end.
Really?
Yeah. Time flies. It's 3 minutes to the top of the hour.
Oh, my days.
And once you see Komla Adum in the studio, he's here to do the news at 2.
Okay.
After which Alexis Bill will take over and bring us drive time. Then we carry on with the rest of our programming. But it's been a fantastic conversation. And for me, I always end with my 5 takeouts. And for me, if the 5 takeouts today is from the 5 C's. So confidence is critical, but I'll come to that at the end. That we need critical thinking. So both parents and children, educators, policymakers must apply critical thinking in solving the problems that confront us. It's about analyzing things, understanding where the problems are, and then thinking outside of the box. The next thing is communication. It is important that you're able to articulate your thoughts and a vision or whatever it is you're thinking about doing. And then creativity. Creativity is important.
It's the beginning of everything.
In the beginning, God created and put in us the power to create. So that's the beginning of everything. And then collaboration. That at all levels, there has to be collaboration between the actors. So at home, parents don't instruct, but also be open to understand the perspective of the child. So you're collaborating in shaping the individual you both would be happy with and an outcome that you both like.
Right.
And then the final thing is confidence. Yes, of course. If you're not made to feel unworthy because you are different from the next person, chances are you own your person and you'll be able to stand chest out and free your mind, as people say.
And in that freedom of the mind, God knows what solutions to the challenges we all have.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's been an awesome conversation, and thanks to all our audience, both online, on Facebook Live, those who sent us messages via WhatsApp. I'm just going to read these last two. Mommy sends one, says, Ensure Educative Program. I'm a teacher and interested in pursuing instructional design and technology at the master's level. Can you help me connect with your guest for guidance? Okay, Mommy, I shall do my best. And then final message. Oh, okay, sorry. This is something for Komladum. Komla, this is for you. Okay, Insha, I want to ask you, resource person, her take on vacation classes concept. Is that the way to go? How should we embrace it for our kids? This is Jordan in Medina. Okay, Cecilia, I will give you 30 seconds to tell me what your answer to this question is.
Yes, the longer the children stay at home doing nothing, they fall back on how they progress in school because their mind is not stimulated for too long. So holiday classes are great. It's great if they can meet other kids from other schools. Collaboration happens, they learn more about each other. Medina, Tender Lilies in East Legon, is doing Fast Track Kids Robotics.
Okay.
Take your children there.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much. And it's time for us to go to the headline news with Komla Adum. Komla,
Sure.
what's in the headlines?
Well, the latest news updates, 5 persons arrested, including Chief